Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here again to take your source material. Today, it's a really focused set of analyses on Anubis, and we'll distill it down for you. Today's topic is pretty universal, I think. It's about the conceptual role of a guide, specifically right at that moment of transition.
Right. And our mission today, just to be clear, isn't really a deep dive into all of Egyptian mythology. It's much more specific.
Okay.
We're using the material you sent over to trace the immediate emotional journey, that shift from, well, disorientation and fear towards a sense of peace.
Yeah, it's a remarkably tight focus in this source. It almost strips away all the usual iconography, doesn't it?
It does. It presents this figure purely as a source of comfort, not some big judge reviewing your life choices.
No scales, no judgment hall mentioned here.
Exactly. Just immediate relief, guidance through something totally unknown.
It feels like a very clean narrative. The main enemy is just internal fear, existential dread.
And the solution is immediate external guidance. It kind of skips the theology and goes straight for the psychological core. That's what makes it so interesting to unpack.
Absolutely. And to really grasp how profound that guidance is meant to be, we have to start where the source does, which is, well, in the middle of terror. The baseline experience described is just petrifying. The sources actually label it the dread of the unknown.
And that dread, it's not just being scared, is it? It's described as this total, overwhelming disorientation.
Right.
Imagine facing something where you have absolutely no reference point, no control, nothing. That's vulnerability, pure human vulnerability. And the source says, that's point A.
The source really tries to capture the scale of it too, calling it the shadow of death. It says its presence can be overwhelming.
Yeah, overwhelming feels like an understatement in context. It's not just a shadow passing over, it's consuming, making you feel small, totally incapable.
And you mentioned it's not framed morally.
No, that's key here. It's not about paying for past mistakes in this specific narrative. It's psychological, maybe even physical in its intensity. The fear is about the abyss, losing yourself, the pain of that loss.
So that overwhelming dread is the core problem this whole structure needs to solve.
Exactly. If the guide figure can't deal with that shadow, nothing else really matters, according to this source.
That makes sense. The bigger the crisis, the more immediate the solution needs to feel. So if that's the starting point, this dread, what's the immediate countermeasure the source offers?
Well, right at that absolute peak of dread, the solution appears. And the source frames it very simply. The appearance of comfort.
Simple phrase, big impact.
Huge. The relief is immediate. And the critical detail is put with almost startling simplicity. Anubis is there.
Anubis is there.
Yes.
Just that carries so much weight in that context, doesn't it? Certainty arrives in a moment of total uncertainty.
It's like finding solid ground when you thought you were drowning, just as you said. But crucially, this comfort isn't passive. The sources really emphasize the active role of the guide. Which makes sense, right? If you're overwhelmed, you can't act. So the guide has to act for you.
I found the language around movement really interesting here. The guidance is called the guiding hand, and then it states very clearly, he will lead.
That directional certainty. It's everything when you are completely lost in that shadow. It means you don't have to choose anymore.
The cessation of responsibility.
Exactly. You don't need to map it out. You don't need to navigate. You just follow. Psychologically, that surrender, handing over agency to someone you trust who seems certain, it lifts this massive burden.
That passive surrender, it sounds like immense relief. But I wonder, does the source risk maybe infantilizing the soul a bit? Is this guidance earned or just given?
That's a really good question, and the source material seems to imply it's just given, precisely because the need is so desperate.
Like an emergency rescue?
Yes. The soul is incapacitated by fear. It's an existential emergency. The focus is relief first, assessment. Well, maybe later, or maybe not at all in this framework. It sets up the relationship as immediate, compassionate rescue.
Okay. And the second part of that active help is how the guidance is delivered, the communication style.
Yes, exactly. The source calls it the voice of peace. This tells us how it happens, not just that it happens. And it explicitly says, his words are kind.
Kindness, right in the middle of terror. Such a sharp contrast to the shadow of death idea.
Absolutely. Kindness, clarity, competence, they replace that sort of roaring noise of the unknown the source describes earlier.
It's like an auditory shift, too.
Yeah, think about that. The overwhelm is loud, chaotic, internal. The guide replaces that noise with calm, kind words. It's a powerful statement. The guide isn't just good at directions, they're profoundly compassionate about the suffering you're experiencing.
So the emotional landscape gets instantly pacified by this soft, certain voice.
Precise.
Okay, so we've moved from paralyzing fear through this active, kind guidance. Now let's shift to where this journey is actually going. It's not just about escaping the dread, right? There has to be a promise of resolution.
Exactly. The guide gets the soul through the worst part, absolutely. But the goal is resolution, continuity. And the first step towards that has to be ending the initial suffering. Definitely.
The source material tackles that head-on. It details the immediate relief offered as the end of suffering. And then it states, quite plainly, he ends pain.
And that's the critical mechanism here. By ending the pain, both the physical and the existential kind, the guide isn't just a ferryman. They're validating the immense struggle the soul just went through.
It's like saying, yes, that was real, and it's over now.
Exactly. Confirmation. The struggle is done.
And importantly, the story doesn't stop there at just ending things. It moves straight into renewal. It offers the hope of a new life, making clear this isn't about termination. It's about, well, reconfiguration, continuing on.
Yes, and if you connect that to the broader assurance given, it's essentially the eternal promise, a new beginning. So the guidance doesn't just fix the immediate fear, it guarantees the self continues. For someone facing the ultimate unknown, that promise of continuity, that's the ultimate comfort.
I also really liked how the source described the feel of the journey itself. It calls it the journey's embrace, characterizing the whole thing as an accepting journey.
Yeah, embrace is such a warm word there.
It is. It feels personal, not like a forceful extradition or just cold transport.
That framing is really significant, I think.
Yeah.
It completely reframes the emotional experience of dying. It shifts it away from being this solitary, terrifying ordeal or some kind of cold judicial process.
Into something gentle, supported, accepted.
Exactly. It's positioned as the ultimate systemic antidote to that initial dread of the unknown, because the unknown itself turns out to be welcoming in this view.
Okay, so let's try and pull these threads together. We have the initial dread, then this compassionate, reliable guide, and finally the promise of renewal. And it builds towards, well, mastering that initial fear.
Right. The ultimate triumph that the source material describes isn't about morality, it's existential. It's summarized as the victory over fear.
And the conclusion is so concise. It wraps the whole emotional journey up. The source repeats that key point, the certainty of presence. Anubis is there.
Reinforcing that reliability.
And then it gives the final emotional verdict, the fear is gone.
And that resolution, the fear is gone, it's the payoff for the whole guidance process described. It tells you that the reliable presence, the kind words, they actually worked completely.
So it transforms this overwhelming, painful unknown
into an accepting journey with an eternal promise. That initial conflict, the dread, it isn't just pushed aside. The narrative says it's completely neutralized by the end. Gone.
What strikes me as really radical about this particular source material, reading through it, is the deliberate absence of judgment.
Yeah.
There's no talk about weighing the heart, checking your life's balance sheet, nothing. Just immediate relief and support.
That's the real core of this deep dive, isn't it? Why leave judgment out? Psychologically, knowing that assessment is either deferred or just irrelevant to getting through this moment, well, that provides profound comfort.
Because the immediate need isn't fairness, it's cessation of pain.
It's the certainty that the pain ends and the fear stops. This source seems to argue that the fundamental human need at the moment of death is relief, not reckoning.
That fundamentally changes the whole experience of transition then. It makes it an act of deep compassion, not some kind of celestial checkpoint.
Right. It shifts the focus entirely away from a performance review and onto achieving personal peace.
It feels like an acknowledgement that regardless of how you lived, those final moments are defined by vulnerability, maybe terror, maybe pain.
And that the ultimate act of guidance, in this specific concept, is to remove those obstacles right away. It's an affirmation of total support when you are absolutely vulnerable.
That's a really powerful analysis. We've traced this emotional map from sheer terror to, well, triumph, showing how this source frames transition purely through compassionate guidance and solving that immediate fear problem.
Yeah, we've really seen the power of conceptualizing this moment with the emphasis solely on relief, support, and that promise of continuity. No judgment attached, at least not immediately.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If this source suggests relief from fear is the ultimate need at transition, does our modern focus on, living a legacy or achieving perfection maybe miss the point? Is the only legacy that truly matters in that final moment simply finding peace, finding acceptance in the face of the inevitable? That's something to think about long after we finish here.
Indeed it is. It really forces you to ask if the true measure of a successful transition maybe lies more in the ease of the exit rather than the tally sheet from the entrance.
A profound thought to end on. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you feel well informed and perhaps have some new questions to explore.